Green alert! Eagles Nation, buckle up, because the nest is on fire. Explosive updates are shaking things up behind the scenes in Philly, and I've got the inside scoop ready for you right now. The mission is crystal clear. Fly straight to the Super Bowl, and head coach Nick Sirianni knows he needs a roster that's sharp, healthy, and ready to battle every single Sunday. If your heart races with every touchdown and you live for the roar of the crowd at Lincoln Financial Field, smash that like button right now. Speech balloon, and if you've been bleeding green and white for over 10 years, drop a comment that says, "Go Eagles!" It's time to dive into the drama, the strategy, and the future of the team we love. Let's fly, Birds fans. Let's get right into it, because there's a lot to unpack today. The buzz swirling around the league right now centers on a potential blockbuster move involving the Eagles and New Orleans Saints wide receiver Chris Olavi. That's right, Olavi's name has emerged in trade talks, and the Eagles are rumored to be eyeing him as a solution to a lingering problem they haven't been able to solve for years, the WR3 spot. Now, A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith are locked in as one of the league's most elite wide receiver duos. No doubt about it. But beyond those two stars, the WR3 role remains a question mark, and has been ever since Sirianni took over in 2021. That third receiver could be the key piece that helps unlock a more dynamic and unpredictable offense, and Chris Olavi fits the profile perfectly. He's quick, he's elusive, and he's the kind of inside weapon that can make defenses pay from the slot. His footwork is surgical, he's slippery in open space, and he brings the kind of burst that gives defensive backs nightmares. Eagles fans will remember that early season matchup against the Saints last year when Olavi cooked C.J. Gardner-Johnson in the corner of the end zone on a beautifully run route for a touchdown from Derek Carr. That was a glimpse of just how lethal he can be when used correctly. Now here's what makes this even more interesting. Brandon Graham, now officially retired after an iconic Eagles career with 2 Super Bowl wins, mentioned that he believes the 2025 Eagles could become more balanced on offense. Last year, the offense leaned heavily on the run game, especially behind Saquon Barkley's monster season that earned him NFL Offensive Player of the Year. But with Jalen Hurts' big money contract, A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith's presence, and now Kevin Patullo taking over as offensive coordinator, a more balanced attack could be coming. And that could mean one thing, a bigger role for a WR3 like Olavi, if the deal happens. On the other side of this equation are the Saints. New Orleans is heading into the 2025 season with no primetime games and one of the NFL's toughest schedules. They're widely projected to be one of the league's worst teams. Combine that with the arrival of new leadership trying to rebuild under new vision, and you've got a team that could be ready to hit the reset button. For Olavi, who's already battled concussion issues and hasn't quite found his groove since being drafted in 2022, a change of scenery might be exactly what he needs. Pittsburgh is another team reportedly interested in Olavi, especially after trading away George Pickens and bringing in DK Metcalf earlier this year. But let's not forget, there's history between the Eagles and Saints when it comes to trades. This goes all the way back to the 2022 draft when Howie Roseman pulled off a series of moves that not only brought in A.J. Brown, but also allowed the Eagles to move up and grab Jordan Davis. Here's how that played out. The Eagles traded with the Saints to position themselves for key picks, which led to grabbing Nakobe Dean, a 2023 first-round pick that was later used to get Jalen Carter, and a 2024 second-round pick. The Saints? They used those picks to take Chris Olavi, Trevor Penning, who's been a disappointment, and Jordan Jackson. Looking back, the Eagles absolutely fleeced New Orleans in that deal. And that's not the only time Howie's had Mickey Loomis' number. The Eagles snagged Malcolm Jenkins from the Saints, a move that helped them win Super Bowl 52. They landed Darren Sproles in a trade that turned into a major win. They added C.J. Gardner-Johnson just before the 2022 season kicked off. The Saints front office knows full well that when the phone rings from Philadelphia, they better double-check the terms. As for Olavi's on-field production, he's shown flashes of being one of the league's rising stars. In his rookie season, he had 72 receptions, over 1,000 yards, and 4 touchdowns. In year 2, he improved with 87 catches and 5 touchdowns. But in 2024, concussions limited him to just 8 games. That's the main red flag. He's still young, he's incredibly talented, and he would be a massive upgrade over Jahan Dotson, who hasn't delivered what the Eagles hoped for since arriving in Philly. Speaking of Dotson, he's had trouble getting touches. With Barkley carrying the load on the ground, and Brown, Smith, and Goddard dominating targets, Dotson's numbers were underwhelming. Just 19 catches for 216 yards in 2024. That's not first-round production. He might fit better as a WR3 or WR2 elsewhere, but next to Olavi, the gap in upside is clear. If the Eagles want a dependable, game-changing third receiver, Olavi is the guy. And let's be real, if one of the top two receivers were to go down with injury, do you really trust a room led by Dotson, Anaya Smith, and Johnny Wilson to carry the load? That's shaky at best. Depth at wide receiver is critical, and Olavi could not only fill a need, but elevate the offense entirely. Now, we know Howie Roseman never sits still. He's always working the phones, always aggressive. Whether it's trades, free agent signings, or draft day maneuvering, he's built a reputation as one of the league's most forward-thinking executives. The idea of him making a move like this before the season kicks off isn't far-fetched, but there's one wrinkle: money. Chris Olavi is going to want a new deal soon. He's a first-round pick from 2022. And with 2 productive seasons under his belt, he'll be looking to cash in. Would the Eagles be willing to take on that kind of commitment, especially with big money already tied up in Jalen Hurts, Brown, Smith, and others? There's also the emotional side of this. Saints fans, especially guys like Treasy Trace, who's a diehard fan and former Eagles now producer, would be devastated to see Olavi in midnight green. And that only adds to the drama. So let's turn this over to you. With Olavi's concussion concerns, his upcoming contract situation, and the Saints potentially entering rebuild mode, do you think this is the right move for Philadelphia? Should the Eagles go all in on Chris Olavi? And when we look deeper, it's not just about filling the WR3 role anymore. It's about Howie Roseman taking a swing to put this team over the top. Because make no mistake, if the Eagles land Chris Olavi, it's not a luxury move. It's a strategic, calculated decision aimed at shoring up the final soft spot in an otherwise championship-caliber roster. And the implications go far beyond just stats on a page. Let's consider the offensive identity shift we've been hearing about. With Kevin Patullo now taking over as offensive coordinator, replacing Kellen Moore, there's talk from inside the building that the playbook is being redesigned to open up the passing game. That's not speculation. It's coming from team leaders like Brandon Graham, who made it clear he sees a more balanced offensive approach in 2025. That means less reliance on Saquon Barkley to grind out games, and more pressure on the wideouts to make plays. If you add Olavi into that mix, you instantly make defenses pick their poison. Do you double AJ? Leave DeVonta single covered? And what happens when you throw Olavi into the slot and he starts pulling safeties toward the middle? This is the kind of problem that drives opposing defensive coordinators crazy, and it's exactly the kind of offensive complexity that could help the Eagles finish games stronger. Remember the collapse late last season? Games where the Eagles couldn't sustain drives, couldn't stretch the field? Adding a route technician like Olavi could be the solution that finally gets this team back to dictating the flow of games rather than reacting to opponents. Now, we have to address what's happening off the field too. 2 massive hits just rocked the Eagles front office. Brendan Hunt and Anthony Patch, 2 pillars of Philadelphia's scouting and personnel infrastructure, have both been poached by the Las Vegas Raiders. That is not small news. These aren't just names buried in a team directory. These are 2 of the minds that helped shape the roster we see today. Hunt had been the Eagles' senior director of scouting in 2024 and was a visible, vocal part of the draft process. If you saw the War Room footage, you know he was front and center alongside Howie, pushing for Kyle McCord late in the draft. That's the kind of influence